Okay, with the, being after 5 o'clock, special, 5:30, the special meeting for December 20th call to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Go ahead. Okay, received. Okay. All right, bye. He said just to wait for the discussion. 1 second, he's parking.
Okay?
Based on dependency,
What is the number? 2421?
1881.
We're just waiting for another.
Yeah, just, his legal hat kicked in. He said, better to hold. Yeah. Give me
Yeah. Sorry, late folks. It's okay. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you for being here.
We have this meeting for 242-1881, Willows, 189 Willow Street.
So the public hearing is closed. This meeting is convened to deliberate and render a final decision on the notice of intent. The printed copy in front of you has legal counsel's comments, which were minimal. I put that in red. And I can live edit the decision if there's edits that you guys want to make, so I can do it straight into the document. Not that one.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like the record to reflect that there are 6 members present. All 6 present this evening participated in the one hearing, and only one hearing, that was conducted, so we're all prepared to deliberate as a group and individually.
Do notice.
So, I started out with procedural history. It's fairly cut and dry. Anyway, stop. just that the notice of intent was submitted on November 8th.
Are you reading from your draft?
I am.
We should probably deliberate first, right? Shouldn't we go
Okay,
around the table and
sure.
discuss each person's reasons and thoughts?
Okay. we can do
So I
that.
think what I would hope that we get, if we want to take this, Chairman, you want to lead the discussion, or do you want to just go around the table?
No, well, I'd go on the table like we normally do, just because there's so many things to go over, but we'll start off with you.
Yeah, and I think, what became clear is that there were a lot of issues with the state, first of all, separation of the state Wetlands Protection Act and our bylaw. And I think we need to continue to do that in anything we deliberate and decide. Because there may be two different paths of what they might want to do, depending on our action. But I think there's enough clarity in the regulations of what they needed to do, what they submitted, failing to meet that need, and then their lack of attendance, failure to explain why what they were submitting didn't meet those requirements, and we could have a discussion. So I think all of those things need to be done point by point, act, point by point bylaw. And in the end, that I know clear. And then lastly, of course, that's ourselves, is we did in fact have butters present who raised questions, legitimate questions, legitimate or not, it doesn't matter, raised questions that were unable to be answered by anybody. We couldn't answer them, they weren't to us, they were to the applicant. And so the abutters' concerns were also not addressed. And I think that's, and I'm sure that as we deliberate, it's going to all be in the wash, that it comes out that way. But I think we want to be really, really careful that even though we may feel confident in any proceeding that may have already happened or is in the process of happening, I think we want to be clear that on this application all by itself on face value, that they, one, denied themselves the opportunity to be heard, to receive questions, to continue the process of a public hearing, and that just simply because they didn't want to come, we should be very careful to say that they denied the opportunity to come, and they denied themselves that opportunity. And that's what I want to express as we deliberate. That's what I have.
Thank you, Joe. Jack?
Yeah, well, I would like to speak on behalf of my over 25 years' experience on the commission with the Wetlands Protection Act and bylaw. Looking at the technical details of this project, it's clear to me that filling of an isolated wetland more than 1,000 feet is not allowed under our bylaw. Violations of the different buffer zone boundaries that we have, the 25-foot no disturb, the 50-foot no build zones are. This project doesn't appear to me to meet those requirements of the bylaw, and therefore, under normal circumstances, this project would have very little chance of being approved as submitted. So that's really all I have to say.
Mr. Chairman, I have read this decision, all 8 pages, and I am in favor of the decision as drafted. I offer no changes, amendments. I would vote in favor of it.
I feel the same way, and the main thing with me on the application, it was going to require several waivers and to give some alternative analysis. We were never given the opportunity for them to present it. They were never given us any opportunity to comment on the project. We have filling in a floodplain which affects an abutter, possibly losing his property. He wasn't addressed for his remarks. So I read this also, and I am totally agreement that what's there.
And just to be clear, so at the end of our last meeting, I think there was definitely a direction in which this was obviously going and articulated. And as a result of that direction, a draft decision has been prepared, which we have in front of us. So for anybody that's listening to this, that's what we're talking about when we say the decision. My thoughts on the project are that this is an incredibly challenging project that they have put in front of us. I mean, the type that ordinarily isn't acceptable doesn't make it past our bylaw by a long shot. So it really is the type of matter that if somebody wanted to move forward on it, there's obviously going to be a lot of questions about it. There are going to be abutters, and I think there are even stormwater issues in this one as well because of the nature of the project. So much of this is in wetlands or in the no disturb that it clearly requires an impressive alternatives analysis as to why it has to be that way, why you can't do something else to build something on that property. And I think the rules are avoid, minimize, mitigate. And they certainly didn't avoid, and there was no effort to mitigate, or minimize for that matter. And if there was an applicant here that could have discussed those issues, they would have been aired. We also had abutters present that brought up some necessary concerns that they have from their own perspective, but also that from just general townspeople that know the area and what's there and how important of a wetland system it is, not a wasted wetland system. Under the alternatives analysis, the applicant had the burden of proof. The applicant's application did not meet that burden of proof. The applicant wasn't here to support the application, so I am not in favor of granting this. Right?
I believe most of the points have been stated here pretty well. I generally agree with what the chairman said about there's several waivers requested here and not much evidence for them asking why these waivers should be granted and no one present here to tell us about it. I have several issues with the site plan as shown. I don't see any way to maintain that pond in the rear of the building, among other things, of which I would love to discuss with the applicant, but they're not here. So generally, I agree with the findings that we have here.
Okay, now, so basically, if we're voting tonight for denial of this application, there really isn't any more information that we need unless they reapply.
We can't accept any new information.
No, if we deny this,
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
project is dead, so they'd have to refile.
Yes,
Well, that's the idea.
Yes.
When you go to page 8, it sums it up. The last paragraph of the last page is what we should be hanging our hat on.
I think there's another item I want to add to deliberation, because I think I see where this is likely to go, and I want to make sure that it's explicitly clear that because of our bylaw, we've not made any sort of statutory taking with regards to use of the land. Mr. Grasso just recently acquired this lot. The date's in the record somewhere, I just tried to flip through looking for it, but he just recently acquired this lot. On record are the permitting history for this project, this property, citing all of the reasons why this was a challenging and a very difficult lot. Yet he decided to purchase it anyway and pursue this application. And I want to make sure that the record is clear, as we might deliberate, as we might put it out, that he made the decision to buy this lot, knowing very well, likely, that the outcome would be a denial. And I want to make sure that any action we take is not to be construed as a statutory taking.
Okay.
And there was no PNS with contingencies. So,
On our issue, the issue is if we say your lot is unbuildable, don't want him to say you made it unbuildable. He knew what he was buying. I want the record to show it.
So augment the finding of fact, procedural history, Joe. We asking for a new item on the
I believe that's
denial
probably where
order.
it's best cited on the procedural history. I think we're at the very end. I think it is, yeah, very end of that procedural history should be the ownership history. I hate to say it, in the documents that we received, it was the date that he purchased it was in there. I'm not sure if it was from part of the submittal or some supplemental information that we had received. But the prior permitting history is crystal clear, because it's on record at the registry.
Relevant in the denial of this application?
Not really. Nope, that's stuff that, but if Joe feels that he wants a statement in there that.
I don't think it needs to be in the decision.
Yeah,
I think
me-
the record, as long as the
Yeah,
record
okay,
shows
well,
it.
Jack was looking to add something.
Yeah, so you're not
Yeah,
on-
You could, but I don't think it needs to be.
I don't
I-
think.
And
don't think there's-
I wouldn't amend,
Yep.
I wouldn't amend this document.
Yeah,
I think we
there'll
should.
be minutes from this meeting, and there'll be a transcript of the recording.
And then if they reapply again, we'll have that on her narrative. She'll list the history if they reapply.
So did anybody have any proposed changes? I had a couple little ones, just really minor stuff.
I had a couple, just clarifications we might want to consider. On page 1, last paragraph, you say that you made requests on the 17th and 19th, on the 29th, to get the 21-day extension. I think you should say by what form, email and telephone calls.
Oh, yes.
Say what form. On the 30th, you provided several technical comments. By what means did you make those comments?
Right. Yep.
Again, I'm trying to demonstrate that we made multiple attempts, multiple ways.
Well, Joe, what's important to note, and it's in the decision, is on page 2, the top paragraph under the red print, it references the email correspondence from Eric Lane of Hayes Engineering, where he said very clearly, "We will not be there." And specifically, not only did he say, "We will not be there," you don't have any jurisdiction over this. We've filed for a superseding order from DEP. That was what was in his email. They had no intention of coming, they had no intention of answering, they were telling us we had no jurisdiction. Very,
The decision I may have seen earlier in this one, the red, that's it?
Exactly.
Not one other word?
Yeah, no, and then I included, in terms of the list of provisions in the 310 CMR,
Yep.
I just stated that, including but not limited to the following.
Okay, but that's it? Okay, thanks.
so anyway, I feel that's a very salient point.
Yeah, I think it culminates with that final paragraph. You're
It goes
absolutely
to,
right.
it goes to the intent of the applicant, and in my opinion, it answers what the plan was right from the start. And they had no intention of complying with the bylaw, and that was their effort to circumvent the bylaw. And that's a choice. That's a choice that was made, that they made, and you live with your choices.
Is there something, go ahead, you had
Just as
something?
far as, you did remove the second paragraph, though.
I switched it around.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, yep.
Procedurally, yeah, it
Thanks.
was a little out of,
Yep.
sorry about that.
No
There was
problem.
something peculiar about the way the NOI was received at the front desk, too. It was just dropped off. The normal procedure would, it was mailed.
And another department received theirs by hand.
So the longer the record shows, it was two different methods, but the reason why we get them in hand is that's the opportunity where we actually get them to have that conversation rather than relying on emails and telephone calls. So by virtue of how they submitted it, they also denied themselves the opportunity to meet procedure.
There was no human contact.
No human, I think we would need
Whatsoever.
to say that in some way, about the way it was received.
You can put it by that. Deal with it. I mean, if the state denied them, it wasn't because they weren't told by multiple sources. We haven't done anything that, for this application than we have done for any other application.
There's no need to even.
There's no need to critique this thing because it is what it is.
Yes, I disagree.
Not.
What happened earlier under a different proceeding is past history. This is going to go superseding on the state, and it's going to go to Superior Court under our bylaw, regardless of what happened earlier today. It's going down that route.
What was?
And we have to make sure it's in there to defend it.
But it has to be in the four corners of the decision.
That's right. That's what I'm saying, get it in the decision. That's
So-
why we
so-
have to get it into
So
there.
you're offering to add or amend the decision?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if I agree, but
I'm live editing, I'm saying, you know, I added not via mail, not by hand delivery.
okay.
Okay. That should take care of that.
What else do you want to add?
By email, that
by
my
email.
communication was by email all 3 times.
Yep. With no response. Yep.
With no response.
Yep.
Yeah, the only response that we got was to them that they weren't coming.
That's my understanding.
That is.
That was a month
that
after,
is the-
that was a month after the first email.
Yeah, but what's that discussed? I mean, they did nothing to do process because their whole intent was to eliminate the Conservation Commission and think that they were gonna get approved by the state.
But that's
So that's their issue.
a
Our
choice.
issue, we're just doing what we normally do. If any applicant comes before us for an NOI and doesn't show up or doesn't offer any answers, well, we would deny it. And wouldn't have to go through a crazy process.
Well, not every applicant, right? I mean, this project specifically, because it's not your average application.
Not by
to say
any
the
means,
least.
not
Right.
by any means.
Correct.
What I want to make sure happens is that the document that we issue tonight is so specific that when an appeal gets filed at Superior Court, that the document has most everything in it clearly stated. So if there's any end around that sometimes has happened in court, that the information is clear, that it's not relying on somebody raising the hand and swearing under testimony, because sometimes we don't get notified. But I want to make sure that the document has it in it, so it stands on its own. And if we don't say it, we may deny ourselves that opportunity.
I think what she's done is kind of done that for the most part. I mean, you bring up one point about the mailing, but I think it covers everything I was thinking about that I'd want to have in there. Okay.
And we will be attaching town council's memo to DEP in response to that appeal. So that really also does a belt and suspenders with procedural history and discussion on process.
I'm not, this stuff, and I've been here for almost 20 years. They filed it with the DEP. Is that the decision went to, beside us? Originally,
Because
the one that got denied, what was that?
it was the applicant's appeal to DEP for a superseding order because we didn't open the hearing in 21 days.
So now they can appeal the DEP's decision to the DEP?
They could seek a superseding order asking for prescriptive approval because they could construe it that we've overstepped our bounds and didn't consider granting them a permit under the Wetland Protection Act.
Well, DEP must have gave it, told us why they denied it.
It was only because of the timing,
Well,
right?
I mean, they were in possession of our town council's memo. They were in agreement that the record showed a December 13th, 2023 hearing date on an abutter notification form. I informed DEP that we held the hearing on the 13th. We had abutters and members of the public show up for this hearing. Applicant and his team were not present. The legal advertisement was published in the newspaper for the December 13th meeting. It wouldn't have published if it didn't get paid for. Hayes has an account with Eagle Tribune. They paid for it.
So they have reviewed the project as itself, as it stands, DEP.
I think, I don't know what they did. I can't speak for DEP's. Yeah, I probably didn't go to that extent.
I doubt it got even beyond whether it was procedurally correct to not be heard or not. That's why I think that this is wide open for appeal. They're gonna go for superseding order or not decision, and it's gotta be clear.
Okay. I'm glad you like being a lawyer.
Some days, but not many. Are we just going to go down?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay. But Jeff, do you have any proposed revisions?
Any more questions?
No more
Do we need a motion?
Yeah, well, no, I have a couple of small
okay.
things here. And this is really small. So, one thing I'd like to see is, I know on page, under section 1, page 2, you reference, we took public comments and questions. I'd like those somewhat summarized
Okay,
as to what those comments and thoughts were from the abutters.
okay.
And right above there, you got a sentence that starts with under the auspices, and it goes on for about 6, 7
Oh,
lines. It's
is
kind of
it?
long. So
It's a
I would maybe after the word, third line representing the project was present, put a period there and start a new sentence with receiving no answer. That's the only kind of grammatical error, thought I had. And I did have just one question about, on the last page, paragraph C. And I'll wait for you till you get there.
Okay.
It says, "The applicant does not explain the conditions of the 25 no disturb, nor the effects of the work on this resource area." What do you mean by conditions?
Oh,
Quality?
quality, existing conditions,
Okay.
what's there,
All right.
trees.
It's funny, when I hear the
big
word
trees.
conditions, I think notice of
Oh,
intent
yeah,
for some reason.
no,
Okay.
big trees, little trees,
Yep.
shrubs.
Okay.
Existing condition?
Yeah, the existing, yeah, those were just my thoughts.
Existing. The existing state of conditions?
Or quality, whatever. Conditions is good, I just wanted to make sure I understood it.
You all set, Sean?
Yes, sir.
Brad?
Yes, I am.
So you said you wanted a butter comments summarized to some extent?
Yeah, I think it's good to whoever reads this to realize what the statements of the abutters were, and that they existed. I think they were valued, I think they were important and of value.
Some very important information.
When I read that section of the draft, I thought they were, both speakers were both abutters with notice.
One was a butter and the other was a
Just
member of the.
interested party?
Yeah, not a direct abutter.
But not, so they did
Someone
not,
who
they
lives in
did
the
not receive
vicinity,
notice.
but not a,
Got it.
not a,
Okay, formal.
not an abutter within 300 feet, but
Okay.
in the neighborhood.
Wouldn't simply identifying the abutters be sufficient? Do you want to get into their actual testimony?
Not word for word, but I think it's important to put in the decision what their thoughts
Because I
and
think
statements were.
that's where you start running off the rails. Either you have their exact testimony quoted and printed, or you don't. You just say, this abutter was present and testified as to the impacts on their property. I'd be concerned about quoting verbatim
Yep.
something that we don't have without going back to the recording of the hearing.
I agree with that. Sean, I think that that sentence was followed by questions that were raised were specific to those same interests protected under the act and the bylaws, but with regard to flooding and wetland areas and impacts and how would it affect abutting properties and how would it affect resource areas like floodplain. Those types of questions were raised and were unanswered.
And the fact that the abutter is a statutory abutter, but I would,
Pump the brakes.
well, I've been in this situation before
Yeah.
under different conditions with a different agency. And you gotta be careful. When you start quoting, you own it. You own the testimony.
Right, yeah, I was thinking about quoting, I was thinking about, just merely paraphrasing concerns, I guess that would be it.
I would be very general. I would be specific as to who the abutter is
Yep.
and the fact that the abutter is statutory, but then I would really be very general as to the testimony, other than saying that the abutter offered comments and had questions that could not be answered.
Yep, but I think that leads the reader into, like, assuming that somebody is reading this decision and needs to make a decision based upon it, They don't know what those statements and concerns were. And I think that not including them, what the value that they had in our making our decision isn't shown in the
I
document.
think
that's
you're in a
there.
situation where you have to summarize.
Yeah, very brief.
I think you have to summarize and not quote.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not looking to quote. Little
Okay,
summary,
I
think
was
was-
under the impression that
Yeah.
you wanted the exact testimony.
Oh, no, God, no, God, no.
So I've got questions that were raised related to the interest of the act and the bylaw with regard to flooding, wetland impacts, floodplain filling.
Subject to flooding.
Yeah, I remember one of the folks that spoke, talked about, the value of the wetland, because it seems like the applicant seems to say that it's got no value.
And I recall that testimony, but again,
Yeah, again,
Be-
that's just the things
be-
that resonated with. some of the
use,
things that resonated
use
with me.
caution
Yes.
when you're offering a document.
Yep. Yeah, I would not, let's put it this way, I wouldn't overstate a thing.
Yeah.
That they may have said, I would have really understated.
Because then, as I'm sure you understand, then you're gonna have conflicting testimony.
Right, yeah, no, I do. believe-
And
Yep,
that's when everything falls off
Yeah.
the rails.
yep.
All right, so how about questions that were raised were related to interest of the act and bylaw with regard to flooding, stormwater management, wetland impacts, floodplain filling, and wetland function and value.
And impacts to the abutters property.
Okay.
The one thing that was not lost on me was the abutters testimony was specific as to impacts on his property. And that would be as far as I would go with it.
And that's relevant to us because of stormwater management?
Well, everything that's unanswered in here.
Yeah.
Every-
It's
every-
a
A couple of words right in that sentence.
Maybe it's the application.
Maybe it's
talk
happening right
about
here.
filling in wetlands.
Go ahead.
Right,
Which is not subject to stormwater and floodplain,
right, that's why I think it's.
which affect
Yeah.
the abutter tremendously.
But in addition to that, emphasis on the questions could not be answered
Right.
No.
due to the absence of any representative.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, like I say, again, that's as specific as we should be, other than our own
Yeah,
observations.
I agree.
The only specificity should be your own observations or Amy's own observations that are direct, like direct testimony.
Yep,
We don't want to offer direct testimony in a decision.
Say their property, not his. I believe he made reference to he and his sister.
Say it again?
Instead of his, just say their property.
Okay.
Anyway, that's,
yep, where you come from, I get it.
All set?
Maybe I missed something, but
You all set?
it seems like, the big sticking point here is procedurally, that we didn't open it within 21 days. And I read through this whole thing, and it didn't really say directly why we didn't open it within 21 days, meaning on our November 15th meeting date. I think that might be important to be succinct with that.
what page you on, Jay?
The very first.
Very first. Okay, I got it, yep.
Yeah, it was
So,
filed notice of intent on November 8th, 2023, requesting order of conditions. Okay, and then we go down and,
the NOI included a copy of a butter notification form
Yeah.
that stated the hearing would be blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
And then maybe I could say,
Well, it's not anything yet, because I think you're almost here. Because that paragraph ends. On December 13th, meeting was the next regular scheduled meeting. That's your summary. That's when the meeting was. Then you go on to say, maybe just a sentence in front of that paragraph that says, had the, maybe not,
based on,
I think we just leave it alone right now. Those are the dates you tried to reach out to them without them responding.
Yeah.
And then on the 30th, again, you reached out to them and you got to, with technical comments, they didn't respond. And then in red, the very next page, it says the commission's position on the 20-day requirement. That's where we don't want to simply refer to town council memo. I think we want to say it in so many words, by their inaction, they failed to address the procedural requirement to act within the 21 days. And then you say, then you could say refer to town council's memo. Is that what you're going to attach that? You are, right?
We are going to attach it,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think it's almost there.
It seems like it's the most important point in this whole application, and to be direct and clear on it, I think would be important for us to say.
I mean, I'm having a hard time following it just from reading it. So when they filed on November 8th, what hearing date would have corresponded with that filing?
Not the 15th,
The
it would have,
December 13th meeting.
December 13th?
December 13th meeting.
December 13th.
December.
December.
All right. Maybe,
I think everybody's clear on the
So,
procedure, right?
what-
If an applicant comes in December 8th, which would be November 8th, submits a piece of the package, and the next meeting is December 13th, it's beyond the 21 days, the very next thing staff would do to the person standing in front of them and say, that's more than 21 days, you need to file an extension request right here and now. Since it didn't come in through normal procedures, they denied themselves that opportunity to receive and sign that document. So Amy attempted to recognize that on the 17th and again on the 29th, both on emails and phone calls,
Just email.
just emails on those first two,
I didn't.
right. To get them to sign that extension, which they just simply ignored.
Yeah.
So I think understanding the procedure that we have in place to address that 21-day thing is an in-person interaction at the counter.
yeah, that's.
Which they didn't do. They
I
did.
was hoping you'd mention that, yeah. That's the normal procedure, is in person, getting direction. I don't know. That's your point,
I
right,
mean,
Joe?
we do receive filings by mail, but I do follow up either by phone or email if there's a need for an extension and they didn't realize it or forgot or
Yeah.
whatever.
And you did that
Yeah,
in this case as
right,
well,
Right,
on the 17th of November.
right.
And
Mhm.
maybe that should be explained here a little bit better.
I think it should be said.
yeah,
Yeah, I think because you go from, like, as a reader, when you get to November 8, 2023, the thought is, when is the next meeting? And you don't know the next meeting is till December 13th, till you're almost all the way down
well,
the
the
end.
Okay.
the next meeting technically was the 15th of November.
That they could have qualified.
But they missed their filing deadline, so therefore they needed to go on the 13th of December.
Right.
November
Yeah.
15th.
With that waiver,
That's right.
21-day waiver extension.
Yep.
And since they failed to file that, we did what we did.
Okay. So we need to say that.
Beginning of the second paragraph?
Let me just try to get this
Go
thought
ahead,
down.
go
I'll
ahead,
cut and
yeah.
paste the next regular meeting and the analysis of the commission was November 15th, 2023.
Actually, the third paragraph should probably move to the
It
second.
was the second paragraph in the original draft.
Yeah,
She moved them.
Okay.
we'll move it, okay. However,
It does read better. It goes back the other way.
I'm all confused
Yeah.
now. But I think it did read right in a more logical order.
meeting had already gone by, resulting in December 13th meeting
qualify for? or-
Being the next regularly scheduled conservation meeting is for which proper. What's the next regularly scheduled meeting for which
Bless you.
proper,
So,
made. Well, I think,
I would simply say
I
that the
think,
next meeting, the commission, for which proper notification could be made. Don't say proper, just say for which,
well, I have a
Let's say-
thought, is that on that sentence you just typed?
Yep.
At the November 8th, 2023, at the application, the November 8th,
At the
2023 application.
time.
Yeah.
Is-
that
where's
first
not
phrase-
application?
the Phrase doesn't read
Yeah.
right.
Okay, when the application was made, how's that? When the,
How about as of November 8th, 2023? um, Comma, the filing deadline for the November 15th, 2023 meeting had passed, period.
the filing
Yeah.
deadline?
You have it right below, all you have to do is cut and go down to the word filing deadline.
Okay.
Yep.
No, you didn't,
No,
you didn't want
no.
to cut that, you want to
Undo
keep
that. You
that
didn't
and
wanna cut
cut what
that?
was
Do that.
above it, right. Put that back if you don't
Okay,
mind.
Yeah.
the,
Control V.
wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, as of November 8th, 2023, the filing deadline
Had passed for the,
I'm just gonna
well, so as, yeah, the filing deadline for the November 15th, 2023 meeting had passed. Period.
all right.
And just, I would start with, I'd get rid of resulting in, and then start with a capital T and the. Meeting was December 13th, 23 meeting was the next regularly scheduled meeting of the commission for which notification could be made.
perfect.
I think it's important to also state that based on the information in the notice of intent, we operated on the fact that the December 13th meeting was stated as their intended date for the hearing as well.
I think you've done that in
Because-
paragraph 2.
All right.
First page.
All right.
The NOI
Because-
include a copy of the above notification stating the hearing will be held on the 13th.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
In addition, the filing included the November 7th affidavit of service, which also stated, so. it was
I'd say
multiple-
all we did was add something just to explain what's going on in the
Got it,
next
okay.
two paragraphs.
Okay.
And the as is in a different font for some reason.
Yeah, I know,
The
I
as
don't know
of-
why.
yeah.
All right. All right, and you said a paragraph has to get moved or switched around? This-
Maybe not because of the way we just changed
Yeah,
that.
we might
Oh,
just
okay.
clean that up.
right.
Yeah, because now you've explained, unless you want to put in there that reference the bylaw or regulation that says it's not within 21 days, and as a result, you, on November 17th and 29th, you requested by email. So that would explain why you were doing that. People just don't know that. It's three weeks necessarily. Is it 3 weeks? 21 days?
Okay.
Maybe keep it in the same paragraph you were just working in. Just a sentence added on to the end of it.
Actually, on that paragraph that we just said, we started typing on,
Yeah.
you could say, since the applicants elected to be heard on December 13th, and it would extend beyond 21 days, the NACC administrator contacted the applicant on these dates. Again, puts the onus on them that they selected that date, and then we followed up and they still
How did
ignored
they
it.
select that date?
That was the next meeting.
Advertising?
So they advertised it on their own for December 13th.
I think so.
Yep.
And that would be normal according to our
Yep.
procedure.
Yep.
Since the applicant elected to be heard on December 13th, 2020, at,
When we say elected to be heard, what did they do? Did they schedule it? Did they notify
well,
butters?
they had an abutter notification form that stated that, and they paid for a legal ad.
Okay, yep.
Or, I mean, their abutter notification said December 13th.
Yeah, I don't know if the
So-
word elected is the one.
Should it say elected to be heard?
No, I don't think so.
We don't allow applicants to elect dates.
Indicated?
They have a
Well,
filing.
I wouldn't indicate
They have
it.
a filing deadline date.
Advertised,
That triggers
isn't it?
a meeting date,
Yeah.
right? Like, when you publish your list, you say, to be on the December 15th,
Yeah.
you have to file by, that's the tool that runs the whole thing. There's no election process at all, except if you want to be on a certain date, you file by a certain date. Everybody gets the list of meetings published by the office, as far as I know.
I don't know if I'll let you finish the writing, but
Hold on.
I don't know if I like the since the applicant indicated they wish to be heard at.
Based on the application's abutter notification stating?
Yeah, I mean, if that's what we're really saying is, but if they chose that, right? You didn't tell them to choose December 13th for that hearing. They, on their own, unilaterally notified abutters about a hearing to be held on December 13th, right? So, open at the December 13th meeting date. That's good. Now, I think you just want to add after meeting, someplace in there that's past the 21 days, which is what prompted you to get permission. Great.
That does it.
Does that take care of what you were thinking about, Jack?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Well, by the way, I think you did a great job preparing this.
Oh, thanks.
Right, so this last bit right here, administrative contact the engineer by email.
By,
You contacted on 2 dates, 17th and 29th both?
Yep.
Okay.
by email,
By email?
By email.
So you have to put, I think,
type in email.
I
well,
did.
Yeah, it says by email on the
Contact the
17th and
project engineer
29th.
by email on November 17th,
okay, yeah.
requesting that.
Yep.
where the cursor is right now,
Yeah.
what is that supposed to say there?
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe
Requesting
that's
by that.
requesting that.
Okay.
It would be great, I'm sure you'll do it anyways, that, tomorrow morning or sometime you look at this with, if you can, with a fresh set of eyes, just proofreading it. Because we've made a lot of changes on the fly.
No, that's all right. That's why we're to live
Yeah.
edit and make sure
Great.
we're reading as we go.
Okay, any more questions? Entertain a motion?
I move that we deny the application for DEP file number 242-1881.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Motion adjourned?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I thought that was a question. I thought you were asking a question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.